to Freezer Meals 101. Today we are going to be making meals with rotisserie chicken. They are going to taste amazing. They are new recipes to me, new to you probably, and I can tell you I've been working on these for days now and I can't wait to eat them actually. Now today took a little bit of a turn because my neighbor Christy was going to be filming this with me. She usually makes freezer meals with me and we have a lot of fun. But she's got a head cold and so she's home and I'm filming, but I wanted to let you know that because usually I've got the benefit of making freezer meals with someone. So there's two of us so we can kind of do double the work. But I know that that's not the reality for most people. Most people are making meals on their own. And so if that's you, then the good part about Christy not being able to join us today is that I'm able to break this down and show you how to do this if there's just one of you. And because I'm all on my lonesome today, I'm changing the plan. The original plan was to do the prep and the assembly all in the same day, but that's too much for one person. And we always advise you that you should do your prep one day and your assembly the next. It just makes things so much easier. So I'm gonna take my own advice and we're gonna do the prep today. We're gonna assemble these meals tomorrow. Don't worry, it's gonna be in the same video for you, so stay tuned to see all of that. Now, Christy is an expert when it comes to breaking down rotisserie chickens and getting all the meat off the bone. I don't like touching meat, so this could be interesting. I'm gonna try to enlist some of my family to help actually because we've got 5 rotisserie chickens to break down. I'm gonna pop a video right up there where Christy demonstrates exactly the most effective way for getting meat off that bone. Now, I haven't even watched the video and I was there when she did it, but I can't say that I remember all the details, so I'm gonna try my best to remember what I can. We're gonna do this together. We're also gonna prep all the other things and I'll be back to tell you everything as we go. So we've got our Costco rotisserie chickens out. Because I don't like touching meat, I'm probably gonna try this with gloves. I also have begged my husband to help and he said yes. So between the two of us, we're gonna get these broken down. I'm also gonna get some bacon in the oven and I'm gonna show you a trick for that. I'm gonna get some onions minced and 2 different kinds of cheese grated. I think I've got a little bit more prep than that to do, but I have to check my list. So for now, let's get started on the chickens and the bacon, and I'm gonna show you my bacon trick next. So we have a bacon trick that we've been doing for a long time because, you know, I have a large family, you've gotta cook large quantities of bacon quite often. And so if you twist the bacon and then lay it on your sheet, then now this was extra thick bacon over here, and so it didn't twist quite as well. But the regular bacon that I'm twisting right now is twisting beautifully. And then you can fit 2.5 times the amount of bacon on one cookie sheet. So you can cook it up in the same amount of time, but you're getting more than double out of it. So that is my bacon trick. And that's how we're gonna prep the bacon today before we crumble it. We're gonna do it in the oven. We are probably gonna drain it partway through. Easy peasy. Okay, funny story. I could only find one glove because one of my daughters is in school to become a hairstylist. So my box of 100 gloves had one glove in it. She likes to change her hair color about twice a week and she uses my gloves for that. So I've sent her a text that was like, would you mind picking me up another box of gloves? But in the meantime, I am here getting my hands icky and really missing Christy because she's so much faster and better at this. Not that my husband wasn't a good help, and I might make him get back in here. Make him, that's the wrong way to say it, but ask him nicely. I need to go and take the bacon out of the oven, and I'm gonna show you a trick that Christy taught me for when you take your bacon out of the oven. You just put an oven mitt or something under one side so that the grease all tilts to one corner, and then you can get all the bacon out of that corner so that your bacon's not sitting in the grease. It's a really good trick. It's simple and effective, which is the best kind of hack. So what I've got going on for the chicken is I've got our chicken, but I also have my huge stock pot. And into that, I'm putting the skin, I'm putting even like the fat, like jelly stuff. I can't help but make the faces. But anyway, the jellied stuff at the bottom, even that. And then I'm putting the bone, and I'm probably putting a little bit of chicken in there too, because sometimes I'm just not sure what's what. But anyway, I'm putting that all in my stock pot because, you know, we don't like anything to go to waste. Unless it's chicken with grouse bits on it, but then it's not fully going to waste because it's in our chicken stock. And so I think this is going to be delicious. We'll make chicken stock, and because I have to cut onions later, we'll put the onion peelings in there. We'll put some carrot peelings in there. Kind of put like odds and sods. I think I have to cut up peppers. We'll get a really good chicken stock going on, and if we've got time, we might even make some homemade chicken soup. So we've shredded some cheese to use tomorrow. We're doing some jalapeno jack and cheddar cheese, but because it has to sit in the fridge until tomorrow and we don't want it to clump together, we're gonna add a little bit of cornstarch into the cheese. It won't change the flavor at all, but we're gonna give that a shake, and then it won't clump and it'll stay nice and loose. One of the things I did when I was choosing recipes for this video is I chose things that had like ingredients. So as an example, we're making a jalapeno popper chicken pasta bake. We are also making jalapeno popper taquitos and jalapeno popper dip, as well as a whole bunch of other recipes. But the reason for those 3 jalapeno popper recipes is, one, I really like jalapenos and all of those flavor combinations. And 2, because when you're prepping things, it just makes more time when you're batch cooking to use similar ingredients. So we're using bacon for multiple recipes, jalapenos for multiple recipes, this cheese, the jalapeno jack cheese, and the cheddar cheese for multiple recipes, because the cheddar is also going on our chicken enchiladas. So when you're planning things out, if you're using similar ingredients, it cuts down on your time. It also cuts down on the money because you're able to buy things in bulk. So that's always a great tip to keep in mind. Some of our recipes we want to use shredded chicken and some of them cubed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of very haphazardly, but with a little bit of a plan, separate these into 2 bowls. So I'm going to do like the larger pieces will end up as the cubed chicken, and for shredded, of course, it doesn't really matter, so smaller pieces are fine. And then the fastest way that I know to shred chicken is using a hand mixer. Works so well, works in minutes, and then you're not like standing there with a fork the whole time. So we're going to do that. And for chopping, I mean, we're just gonna chop chicken. So I'm just gonna quickly separate into the 2 bowls, and then once I've got them chopped and shredded, we'll put them in the fridge for overnight, and then the chicken prep will be done. The bacon is done, it just needs to be chopped. Cheese is shredded, still need to chop those jalapenos and the onions. The chicken broth is starting on the stove. So we've got a lot underway, and we were able to do this just, I don't even know, it's been probably an hour. Okay, so the chicken is easily shredded with the mixer, and at the end, if I've got some bits that are still kind of too large, I can go through with my fingers and just pull them apart. But for the most part, that's pretty beautifully shredded chicken with not a lot of effort. So now we're gonna chop bacon. So for cubing the chicken, it doesn't have to be completely uniform because it's already cooked. So it's not really gonna matter if pieces are a little bigger or a little smaller. So just kind of to your liking, or depending on the recipe that you're using. Now for the bowl for this, I'm using a bowl that has the measuring on the side. That way, if I have a recipe tomorrow that calls for 2 cups of, cooked cube chicken or whatever, I can easily already have it kind of measured out for me, which is nice. Just kind of saves a step, and then of course saves dirtying measuring cups, and then that means less dishes for me. So I'm just gonna go ahead and use the same cutting board for the bacon as I did for the chicken because they're going in the same recipes. And as we've established, I don't love dishes, but I do like doing things in a sanitary way. So normally I would not cut meat on, the same cutting board. However, both of these meats are cooked. They are both going in identical recipes, so it's all gonna end up in the same freezer bags or, freezer casserole dishes anyway. And so we're just gonna give this a quick rough chop and then move on to our jalapenos and onions. So it's day 2. And we are going to assemble the meals because we got all our prep done yesterday, which is gonna give us a great head start on today. Now I might have to do this in batches. I'll tell you a bit more about that later. But first we're gonna move into our chicken jalapeno popper segment of the day. Because like I was saying yesterday, when you choose things with like ingredients, it's a lot easier because then first you're saving money because you can buy things in bulk, and then you're saving time because you're prepping the same ingredients and using them in multiple recipes. And of course you can even double or triple or quadruple each recipe to make your time go even farther. The first thing that we're gonna make is chicken taquitos, jalapeno popper chicken taquitos. And I'm gonna go ahead and double this one because I know that my family loves all of these kinds of flavors, and most of my family loves things spicy. So when I prepped my jalapenos last night, I actually left the seeds and membranes in there because that's the part that's the spiciest. And so for most of you, you might want to take the seeds and membranes out, of course, when you're chopping those. But I know our family, we love our spice, and so I left that in there. So for this, we're gonna use some cream cheese. The cream cheese at Costco is really inexpensive in our area compared to other places. And so you can buy 4 packs, and I bought 2 4-packs in anticipation of today. I don't think we're actually gonna use, 8 blocks of cream cheese, but we're gonna make a dent in that for sure. And then we're gonna add some shredded chicken. Now, there's a trick to making taquitos if you're gonna freeze them ahead. So I'm gonna show you that once we're done the mixture here. Then we're gonna do some cheddar cheese, some bacon. Hold on, I forgot it in the fridge. So actually, while I'm working on this, I've got some water boiling on my stove because one of these jalapeno popper recipes calls for pasta. And I've also got that amazing chicken stock just simmering away. I added some peelings from my onions when I was chopping those. So I think it's gonna be really good. And then what we're gonna do is we're actually going to use some of it just as chicken stock and bag it up because of course then you don't have to buy chicken stock and that saves money. We're also going to make some chicken soup with some of it because I do happen to have carrots, and I don't add celery into mine, but you absolutely could. I have a celery allergy, so that's why, but you could even add like your celery leaves and things like that into it as it's simmering for your broth. Anyway, it's really easy. I did add some bay leaves and salt and pepper into that last night, and I just had it simmering overnight because kind of the longer the better, and then you're gonna get so much out of those bones. And it's also good if you go in there and give it a stir once in a while, but even like press down on those bones as they soften. Now we're gonna add some salt and pepper, and of course, the best part, in my opinion, jalapenos. Key to making something like taquitos for the freezer is that you want to lay them flat first on a baking sheet and put that in the oven, because that way they won't stick together. Because once they're fully frozen, you can transfer them into a freezer bag and you can pull them out individually. Now for these, they cook up in the oven or in the air fryer. And so especially if you're using the air fryer, you could take out just 1 or 2 at a time, which is really nice. They're a great snack, great for teens, great for adults too. If you freeze them all together in the freezer bag, those tortillas are gonna stick like glue. Okay, that's probably a little bit too much filling, so we'll get this down to a science by the end here. You wanna roll it as tightly as you can. Those ends look sad, so I'm gonna add a little bit more filling down the ends. And for the next one, I'll go a little further down. Now you wanna put that seam side down and then move on. Now I'll let you know why today is gonna be a little bit of a gong show, but it'll be a fun one, right? Because you guys are here with me and we'll just laugh about all the things that happen. So because I was gonna film the rotisserie chicken video with Christy and we were gonna do it together and just bang, get it all done in one day. But then she was sick, so that changed things a little bit, because then I've gotta do all the prep myself, do all the assembly myself, which is totally fine and totally doable. But it did extend things, but I still think I could have done it all in one day. Although it would be smarter to break it into 2 days. But my husband's vehicle was getting fixed at this place that's like 45-minute drive each way. And so he needed to go and pick it up. So he needed my help for that. So I went and did that. And we just, it was just kind of a series of events. So I didn't even get starting the prep until later in the day. So no big deal. We're going to continue on today, except that today is actually Saturday. And what that means in my house is that I have got a house full. Everybody is home from school or work or daycare. And so we're gonna have people filtering in and out. And as luck would have it, I had plans for today. I am taking Holly, who is one of my closest friends, and we have been friends since we were 9 years old. We have a lifetime of memories together, and I'm so thankful for her friendship. And so she has a big milestone birthday. And so I am taking her for high tea today, which I am excited about, but that means I have to leave at 11. So we're just gonna get done as much as we can before that, and then if I need to come back and do more meals later, I will. If by some miracle I'm done by then, I'm done by then. But I don't think that's going to be the case. So it is now 8:17. So we'll see what we can get done before 11. But hey, sometimes having a deadline isn't a bad thing. It might make me move a little faster. And in case you haven't noticed, I can be a little bit meticulous when it comes to like lining things up and, having things cut to the same sizes and those kind of things that don't really matter in the grand scheme of things. But that's just the way I am. That can mean that I'm slow. So not the fastest cook in the world by any stretch, although practice does make you faster, and I certainly have a lot of that. We'll just see. I think the odds of us getting done by 11, like done completely by 11, are very slim. But I would love it if we could at least get done this jalapeno popper segment. I forgot the jalapenos. Oh my goodness, you guys. I forgot the jalapenos. This is ridiculous. This is what happens when I'm rushing. Okay, look, we are emptying the tortillas. Pretend like you're not seeing this, okay? Oh my goodness. All right, no problem. They wouldn't be jalapeno poppers without the jalapenos. What happened in my brain there is I was thinking, oh, these are gonna be really good. I'm especially gonna like how spicy they are. And then I was like, wait a minute, they're not spicy at all. They don't have jalapenos. Oh my goodness. One of you should have told me. No, I'm just kidding. Obviously I can't hear you. Okay. And now for the jalapenos. Oh my goodness. Okay, this is ridiculous. I think the issue might be that I have not had any caffeine yet today. So I might need to make myself a tea after this recipe. Oh, that looks so much better. Now we have green in there. It looks, it looks less boring. It's gonna be nice and spicy. Oh my. Okay, definitely tea is gotta get added to the agenda. I should not attempt this without caffeine. Oh my word. And chicken jalapeno popper taquitos, take 2. They're no worse for the wear. No one's gonna know. Well, except that all of you that watched me do that, but no one who eats them is gonna know. So the pasta's done. That'll probably be the next meal that I make because I don't want the pasta to have to sit there for much longer. So we're just gonna get these done and then we'll start working on the pasta. I did take a little tiny break because the toddler woke up and he asked me for waffles for breakfast. Now, I do happen to have homemade waffles in my freezer because I'm gonna pop a video right up there. I filled my freezer with all kinds of breakfast things and I'm super appreciating them. So I thought his idea was pretty good. So I've got my waffle over here and I'm munching away on it. I also have gotten myself my caffeine, so we're good to go on that, which is probably gonna help me remember to put all the ingredients in things before I start to assemble them. Now I'm just gonna separate this row a little bit. I was pressing them up on each other so that they would just stay nicely shaped, but I don't want them touching when they're in the freezer because then they will freeze stuck together. So I'm just making little tiny bit of room in between them before we move on to the next row. Down at the very bottom, there was like a lot of jalapenos. And so the last 2, those people are gonna get like a spicy surprise. So eat with caution. Okay, let's get this in the freezer and then we'll move on to our pasta. Okay, we are sort of somewhat ready to do our pasta. Now there's a lot of ingredients in here. I'm so looking forward to this one. I was kind of thinking of even doubling it and having like one for tonight and one in the freezer because of course I need to freeze it because I need to find out for you how that went and, you know, make sure that it's all the good things, freezer safe and everything. And I mean, I know it's going to be because based on the ingredients and the adaptations that I made to it, it's gonna be freezer safe. But we always say before our recipes make it into the Freezer Meals 101 Club, we need to make sure they're tried and true, and we mean it. We go through the testing process. But then I was like, you know, I'm already using like 2 blocks of cream cheese for this, and a lot of cheese and a lot of chicken. And so maybe I should see that we like it before I double it because you don't want to waste food. And if you double something before you know if you like it or not, then potentially you might be wasting the second one or gifting it to someone you don't like very much. Anyway, I have totally gifted meals that our family didn't like, but I've always done it with the caveat of like, would you like this? Full disclosure, our family did not like it. So you might not either, and it doesn't hurt my feelings if, you know, you decide to feed it to the dog kind of thing. Anyway, let me get more organized here. We are adding our cream cheese, some sour cream, minced onion, garlic, salt, pepper, a whole bunch of jalapenos that are finely diced, some heavy cream, jalapeno jack cheese, cheddar cheese, and that's it for that part. And we're gonna mix that all together. I'm gonna use my electric beater for that. 1 cup of sour cream. I never measure sour cream. I always just kind of estimate like, yeah, it looks like a cup. We're gonna add in that onion, some garlic. Now, we just use our garlic from a jar because it's already minced for us and that takes away some of the work. So, a little splash of garlic, salt and pepper. And I'm gonna be really generous with the jalapenos. It does call for 3 full jalapenos. And I'm not gonna make the same mistake and forget to include the most important part. Okay, then we've got our heavy cream, 1.5 cups. And that cheddar and Monterey Jack cheese. Now I'm using a jalapeno jack. Now I find for cheese that about one of my handfuls, like quite full, is 1 cup. Just sort of figured that out over the years. But of course, everybody has different sized hands, so I can't guarantee that that will be the case for you. I have pretty tiny hands because I'm very short. I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm not a tall person. I'm often on my tiptoes, especially when I'm cooking. Now for this recipe, we're gonna use the cubed chicken. So I've got that, and it's got those handy measures on the side of the bowl. So we're gonna do 3 cups. Now I'm mixing this in the pot that I cooked the pasta in because, you know, less dishes and all. And we're gonna mix that together with some green onion. So in our prep, we've gone ahead and sliced some green onion. And some bacon. We're gonna do a generous amount of bacon, and that is right here. Now we're gonna mix that together with our pasta, and then we're gonna stir in the sauce. All right, now the good stuff. We're gonna put in our cream cheese mixture. You could do this one in a casserole dish. If you're gonna be freezing it and using a casserole dish, then you just wanna make sure that it's one that you don't need to use anytime soon. There is a trick that you can do if you prefer, and that is you can line the casserole dish with parchment paper and plastic wrap, and then you can add your casserole into it and then freeze it. Then you can pop the actual thing out once it's frozen. You can retrieve your casserole dish, and that section that's all wrapped in saran and whatever, you can transfer it to a super large freezer bag. And then when you go to make it, it's the shape of the casserole dish, and as long as you use the same casserole dish, you can just plop that right back in there. So that's another little trick. I don't do that personally because it's just some extra steps. If I don't want to hold a casserole dish hostage in my freezer, then I just use these foil trays, and that's what we're using today. They're also really nice if you're gonna gift freezer meals to someone, because then they don't need to worry about getting it back to you. Okay, this is too small of a spoon. I need something heftier. If you've been watching the channel for a while, then you know that I don't love dishes. You'll probably see that theme throughout today too. I think it comes from like years and years of being mom to 7 kids and doing so many dishes. So it's not that I have not done very many, it's just, I guess I hit a point where I was sick of them. So I tend to choose recipes that I can just make right in the freezer bag and then not dirty any dishes. I even tend to choose like one pot or sheet pan recipes so that even on the day I cook them, I don't use many dishes. However, when I saw iterations of this recipe on the internet, I was like, I think I can make an exception. Even though I was reading like, you know, you need a pot and a strainer because you're gonna be cooking the pasta, and then you need 2 bowls. Of course, I used my pasta pot as one of them, so I did sneakily get out of 1 extra dish. Just seeing all of that, and then you're putting it into a casserole dish, and you know, so it's like a lot of dishes for me because of my aversion. But the flavors in this just called to me. I have to make it. And wait till you see what we're doing with the top. As if that didn't look impressive enough, we are going to top it with some more of each of our cheeses, our jalapeno jack and our cheddar. And then I'm gonna put a little bit of bacon and some jalapeno slices. Now, when I was prepping, I did I prepped some extra jalapenos in larger slices just for the look of this. I did cut them in half, but I didn't dice them. So we're just gonna add this cheese. Now, I have to tell you, if you're going to be storing this in your freezer for a while, because this will keep for 3 months in your freezer, then what I suggest is that you put a layer of plastic wrap directly on here and then top it with foil. Make sure you write a note on your foil that reminds you. You could also put it on the label that reminds you to take the plastic wrap off before you bake it, because I've made the mistake of not taking it off before. But because I'm gonna be cooking this really soon, I'm just gonna basically be freezing it for a few days just to make sure that, you know, like I said, it works well after frozen. I'm only gonna top mine with foil because I know it doesn't need to last in there very long. The plastic wrap just gives you extra protection because air is what causes your freezer burn, and it gives you another layer of protection for that. This is a very large casserole. This is like kind of like our family sized casserole. Okay, let's add those jalapeno slices. I probably should have said this earlier, but if you are slicing jalapenos, you might want to consider wearing gloves even when you're managing them, lest you touch your eye afterwards with the fingers that have sliced the jalapenos. I have learned that one a time or two. I just take the risk, honestly, because I slice jalapenos so often in my life. We're gonna add just a little bit of bacon. That is pretty gorgeous, if I do say so myself. Now that our pasta bake's done, we're gonna put together our jalapeno popper chicken dip. We're in this small group, and once every 3 weeks we have a games night with it. And so the next time there's a games night, which is 3 weeks from now, I'm gonna be taking it. And so I can make it now, get it in the freezer, and then bring it then without having to worry about like that. You know, on those days when you have to bring something to a gathering or whatever, and you have a super busy day, and then you're like running to the store on the way to the gathering to pick up a veggie tray or whatever. Well, I don't have to do that because I always have appetizers in the freezer, but I ran out. I had some leftover from the holidays, and it's been obviously a while since Christmas. Yeah, I've run out. Not long since, but a few weeks ago. And so now I'm starting to think about like getting myself restocked. Now this is for a particular thing, but I also just like to have things in there like in case. And one of my plans today is if I have leftover chicken, I'm not sure that I will, but if I do, one of the things I could do is a buffalo chicken dip because I always have the other ingredients for that. We could just throw that together, and then that would kind of be like my safety for the next time I get invited to a gathering and have to bring something. Okay, so for this, I'm actually, again, back to the thing with the bowls. I'm gonna use the bowl that I mixed the taquito mixture in because it's pretty much exactly the same ingredients, and there's no sense in me dirtying another bowl for this. So we're going to add some cream cheese, sour cream. So again, we're using something that we used the sour cream in the chicken pasta bake. So this is, you know, just using the same ingredients, and we're gonna use some bacon, of course, and then some shredded jack cheese and shredded cheddar cheese. I think you guys are starting to see a theme, and you're starting to see how easy it is to put all these together at once, because they share so many ingredients, and we were able to just prep everything all together. Then we're gonna add some diced jalapenos, which of course we already have done, and some garlic. I probably will throw a bit of salt and pepper in there as well. And that's it. That will be everything. We'll mix that together, get it into a foil tray so that it can be in my freezer ready for when I need to bring it to the games night. Now for this, we're gonna use shredded chicken, so I'll grab that out. I did find the other one was a bit hard to mix, even though I had softened my cream cheese. So I'm just gonna soften it in the microwave a little bit, and then that'll make it easier for me to mix. So I forgot to mention this, but I was putting the foil onto that jalapeno popper pasta bake while I was off camera and waiting for this to microwave, because, you know, it's crinkly on the mic, so I was saving your ears from that. And I realized that I forgot to say that if you're gonna use just foil, then I suggest you spray it with some cooking spray because otherwise that cheese will stick to the foil when it bakes. So this is one that I would bake it covered and then kind of uncover it the last like 10 minutes or so just to let that cheese kind of melt sufficiently. Okay, so we've got our, oh, sour cream. That's what I was missing. I was like, there's something else in here. I'm gonna throw the garlic in because it's right here. And of course, the shredded chicken. I have these little trays that I often use when I'm freezing something that is tiny that I'm going to be doing in the oven, but I've actually run right out. We were recently doing a video on freezer meals for two and used the last of them, which is really surprising because it was a very large stack when I started. But obviously over the year or so that I've had them, I've made a lot of freezer meals for two and like small appetizer type thing. My options were these loaf pans, or sometimes I've also frozen dips in foil pie plates before, and that actually works really well because everything is sort of evenly distributed. But just for the lack of space that I have in my freezer at the moment, I'm gonna do the loaf pans because I think they'll fit, like I have an idea of exactly where they're gonna go. And so this is actually going to make enough for two generous size dips. And so then kind of solves two purposes for me. I've got something for this small group, and then I also have something in the freezer. You know, it's also nice, like yes, like I was saying earlier, it's nice in case you get invited somewhere, but it's also nice for the times when you feel like inviting someone over last minute, just to have a games night at your house, or just to have a visit, or somebody stops by, you get unexpected out of town company. And that does tend to happen for me. The reason is my husband is part of a giant family. Like I know we ourselves have a large family, but he is the youngest of 7. His parents ended up having 30 grandkids. So those are my nieces and nephews on his side. And then those kids are now, some of them are close to my age actually. And so they have had kids and, you know, gotten married and that kind of thing. And so we've actually lost track. But from his parents down, there were over 100 at last count. And there hasn't actually been a time once in the last 13 or 14 years that someone hasn't been expecting a baby. So it is a large family, and even sort of the next generation has continued to have not supersized families, like, you know, not 7 kids like we did, but I've got several nieces and nephews that have 3 or 4 kids each. So yeah, so it's kind of continuing. And for that reason, some of them live out of town. They were kind of dispersed between Alberta, Canada, and BC. You know, when they come to town, his sister was just in town last week, and we were actually just visiting another one of his sisters when we went to BC about a week ago to visit our oldest son and his wife. And so yes, there tends to be drop-ins of like, oh, so-and-so's in town, and they're wondering if they can stop by, or so-and-so's in town, let's invite them over to make sure we get a visit in, or whatever. Not to mention, you know, we just want to have like a survivor night with the kids or whatever, and just watch that on TV while we eat appetizers, and that happens around here too. So appetizers are always handy to have, and now I've got 2 for the freezer. Next, I'm just gonna get some of this cleared away because we're gonna move on to a non-jalapeno popper recipe, and that is our chicken enchiladas. So I'm gonna leave out my flour tortillas, and again, using like ingredients, I was able to buy the flour tortillas at Costco and buy the large pack because we were using them both in the taquitos and in the enchiladas. So I'll leave those out, but get some of this other stuff cleared away and put away, and then we can sort of start with a fresh, clean slate. Okay, so chicken enchiladas, what I'm doing is I'm just mixing it all in our shredded chicken bowl because we're just gonna use what's left of the chicken. Now, this might be a bit much, like it might be more than what we need, but then I'll just make a second tray of them, and that's no problem at all. And then I can use the bowl to mix in, plus then I get rid of what we've got left of the shredded chicken because I don't need it for a different recipe down the line. So we're gonna add some drained and rinsed black beans. While I was getting set up, my electric can opener was getting a bit of a workout. Then we're gonna add some diced green chilies. I'm actually gonna use 2 cans of that because, just like I said, this might be more chicken than what we need. In case it is, then it will stretch, and if it isn't, then whatever, extra diced green chilies never hurt anyone, unless you're allergic. Next, we're gonna add some garlic. Just spoon it from our jar. Gonna give you an update on the time too. It is 10 o'clock on the nose, and so I was hoping by 11 to get that jalapeno popper section done, and it looks like we're gonna be able to get that done, plus potentially also be completely done our chicken enchiladas, and who knows, maybe I will even be able to move on to one more recipe. So I don't want to get ahead of myself because, you know, things happen. Toddlers wake up, you get distractions, people come to the door and whatnot. However, so far so good. Most of the kids have actually left already and they have gone to the beach for the day. I think they're very brave because it is not that warm out yet. But they're young and it'll probably do them some good. And also it means that the house is quieter and it's easier for me to go faster. A lot less distractions and less noise also. So I'm gonna add some oregano and cumin, salt and pepper. I just had a funny thought. I was like, oh, wait, jalapenos. No. This one doesn't need jalapenos. Now that I forgot them in that one recipe, I'm paranoid about forgetting it again. Okay, now we're going to add a little bit of minced onion. The recipe that I'm using also calls for chili powder, but I haven't decided if I'm gonna use chili powder or not. And it's kind of funny why, because the chili powder is in my spice cupboard behind me, but it's on the tippy top shelf and not on the first row of the top shelf. And so I tried to reach it and couldn't. So I would have to climb on the counter in order to get it down. And I'm kind of debating how badly I want the chili powder, because I don't know if I want it badly enough to climb onto the counter. Now, to this recipe, you could also add corn if you wanted. You could just use frozen corn, or you would drain canned corn. Okay, I am gonna do it. Just took me a minute to decide, but okay, I'm climbing up there. We have chili powder. Hopefully that was worth it. Okay. Yeah, you know what? I already like the color better. I'm glad I did it. All right, next time I won't debate for as long. See, when Christy's here cooking with me, she's really tall, so she can reach all the tall things. Or if my husband is home, or my middle daughter, any of my sons. But today, for the time being, I don't think I'm home alone. There are 2 kids sleeping. And yes, I said it's 10 o'clock, but it is the weekend and I'm gonna let them sleep. They work hard. And my husband and one of my sons are at pickleball this morning, and then the other kids are at the beach. So it kind of feels like an empty house. Okay, we're gonna start rolling these. Now for these, we're not gonna roll them flat and put them on a sheet. We're gonna roll them and put them right into our trays. And again, I'm using those foil trays. So an interesting thing about the shredded chicken, and why some of the next recipes are going to be getting diced chicken instead of shredded, is that when I add shredded chicken into a casserole, like the jalapeno popper pasta bake that we just did, my husband thinks it's tuna and he can't get past it. Now, I actually love tuna, so, you know, whatever. But he just can't get past the thought that it's tuna, and he likes tuna, but he doesn't like canned tuna. For him, it reminds him of canned tuna, and oh, that's too much. I have to take half of that off there. Okay, I got a little overzealous as I'm telling you the tuna story. Okay, so I probably don't need to tell you how powerful our brains are, and that once you get something in your head, you can't really get it out. So it doesn't matter how delicious the dish I make is. If it has shredded chicken, he just can't really get past it. His brain thinks he's eating tuna and he doesn't want to be. And so he doesn't eat much of it. So for that reason, whenever I'm doing a casserole, I only use cubed cooked chicken if it calls for chicken, never shredded. There's a few exceptions, well, not so much with the casserole, but there's a few things that I make with shredded chicken, like something like this, or the taquitos would be a good example, because for some reason his brain doesn't do that if it's wrapped in a tortilla. I don't know. Anyway. When it comes to freezing enchiladas, there are two schools of thought. Some people prefer to put the sauce on the day of, particularly if they're doing a homemade sauce, because they find that if they freeze it with the sauce on, when it's thawing, then it tends to make the tortillas a bit mushy. Now, for myself, I don't mind, because that texture issue isn't so much an issue for me. I just go ahead and put the enchilada sauce on. I like to kind of have it all done and then just, you know, throw this in the oven. But if you're someone that doesn't like mushy flour tortillas, then it would work to freeze this just like this without the sauce, and then just pour the sauce on, whether it's from a can or homemade, on the day that you go to cook this, and then put it in the oven. You're going to top it with cheese either way, and that would be another way to go. This is definitely going to make a double batch. Now, Christy loves enchiladas, like loves. She loves enchilada sauce and anything with enchilada sauce in it, really. And so I might just, she is stopping by in a little bit to drop off the printable labels for all of these, because she's the one that makes the labels, and she had made them, of course, since we were going to be doing this together, and then came down with this head cold, and she has honestly had a rough week. So between the head cold and her mom got sick, so she went to her hometown to help with that. So she has just had kind of one thing after another, and we all know what that's like. I think that when she comes over, hopefully, I think it's gonna be soon. And so hopefully I will be done one of these trays and I can gift it to her. I know that she's got a freezer full of meals, obviously, so it's not quite as effective as when I gift meals to a different friend, but I still think she'll appreciate it, especially because I know how much she loves enchiladas. So I'm going to put pause on the rolling so that I can just completely finish this one, so that when she comes by, which I think will kind of be any minute, it's all ready to give to her. Okay, so we're just gonna pour our enchilada sauce. Yep, I'm just using it from a can. Right on over there. I'm kind of interested too to hear what Christy has to say about this, because she's made a lot of different enchilada recipes over the years. Okay, now we're gonna top that with some cheddar cheese, or you could use a Tex-Mex blend if you prefer. Okay, that's lovely. I'm gonna get that covered in foil and ready for her. Moving on to our next one. Hopefully I don't have to make 3 of these, but thank goodness I got the Costco sized tortillas. So an interesting dilemma. I have still this much of the filling left, and yes, I have enough tortillas. Yes, I have another tray. No, I don't have enough room in my freezer for like many more of these trays that take up more room than the bags do. But I could figure that out, or I could give it away. However, I don't have enough enchilada sauce to make another one in addition to this. So I've been thinking about it, and when I did our black bean and corn enchiladas, which are our vegetarian enchiladas, and we make those with the small like corn flour blend tortillas, they are so good. One of my favorite freezer meals of all time. You should check that out at freezermeals101.com, because seriously, the flavors in that are amazing. And so the filling is similar, except it has corn in it. It also has green chilies. It has cumin and some of the same seasonings in it. And what I do with that when I have leftovers of the filling, which I always do, is I bag it up, label it, and then I use it on nachos, or when we have a nacho bar or taco bar. It makes such good taco filling or nacho topping. And so I don't see why this wouldn't be, and I could add corn to it, but I'm not gonna bother. I'm just gonna, you know, we've got a time crunch as well as a freezer space crunch. And so I'm just gonna actually bag this into a quart size bag, or maybe 2 quart size bags, because I just want it to be enough for like on top of a few people's nachos. It doesn't, you know, this does not have to stretch and feed an army, but that'll be a really easy solution. Then nothing goes to waste, and I can stretch it to make another meal. These will also fit really well in just the door of my freezer, so they'll take no extra space at all. One thing that I discovered a long time ago when it comes to cooking is that you have to be flexible, and I'm not usually like a super flexible person. That sounds bad, but I just mean I'm a planner, you know? These are frozen enough to start transferring into freezer bags. Taquitos also make a good appetizer if you're having like, you know, a movie night or whatever, and you've got a dip going, although you might want to have more variety than just the jalapeno popper taquitos and the jalapeno popper dip. So that might be a good night to pull out like your buffalo chicken dip, or we have so many other great dips. We've got this chicken bacon ranch dip, got a cheese dip, crab and corn dip. Anyway. It's 10:36. I am going to get the dishwasher is 4 minutes away from being done. I'm going to show you the mess of dishes that I have, and then I'm going to get the dishwasher emptied, get another load of dishes going, and then I'm going to get going so I can pick my friend up and we can go to that high tea, and I'm sure it'll be delightful, and we can pretend that we're very sophisticated. And then I will come back and we'll get back to making our rotisserie chicken meals. I'm really happy with what we've gotten done so far. I'm excited to try the new recipes, like really excited. Can hardly wait for them to freeze so that I can actually make them. And I'm looking forward to getting those other ones done too. I think we're ending up with a lot of variety, starting with those 5 chickens and then ending up with like some dips and some taquitos, some enchiladas, some pasta bakes. We're also going to be doing a pasta sauce that's extremely unique and is going to use the rest of our bacon. We're going to be doing possibly one more recipe, but it kind of depends on how much chicken we have left. Looking at it, yeah. We're going to be doing one more recipe as well. We'll see what we end up with, but stick with me because at the end we're going to see all the variety we were able to make with these rotisserie chickens, and you'll see how easy this would be for you to do at home. One quick thing before I go is that pretty much everything we've done today is really adaptable if you live on your own. For the enchiladas, what I would suggest is doing the same mixture using those smaller corn flour tortilla blends, and then doing them in smaller containers, the small foil containers that you can put in the oven. You would just top each one with cheese just like we did. And then for the pasta bake, because everything is pre-cooked and you're mixing it together and then putting it into the big container, all you would do is do exactly what I did, but portion it out into smaller foil containers or small casserole dishes and then bake those in the oven. That is actually a perfect one for dividing and portioning out. And one more thing that I forgot to tell you when we were doing the pasta, because at that time, I had a toddler on me. And so my brain was kind of scattered, is that when we do our pasta for freezer meals, we undercook it according to the package directions so that when you bake it in the oven, it doesn't overcook and get mushy. And that's the way to save your pasta dishes and have them taste so good and have just the right texture. So join me in a minute when we continue to make these, and I'm off to make my kitchen less overwhelming before I head out the door. I am back from high tea. It was lovely. Truly, it was lovely. It was just delightful because we had the nicest server of all time. She was awesome. I wish I had gotten her name actually so that I could give her a shout out. She really made the experience. And we had a really nice visit. We had to walk really far because my vehicle did not fit in the parkades downtown, and it was downtown. And there was a graduation going on down the street, and so there was no parking. It was like, it's a little bit stressful. And I was wearing heels, and so yeah, we walked about 10 blocks in the heels, and it just made for a bit of an adventure, but it was fun. It was really fun, and I'm back. Now we're gonna get to a few more meals. What we're gonna do is I'm gonna scurry around a bit and get the ingredients that I need. But before I do that, I'm gonna pull out the binder. Now, I don't think you guys have ever seen the binder, but you're about to. This is the binder. It is very thick. It's all of our recipes. Christy, who is great at admin and all things organization, has sectioned it into, it's not only like chicken, beef, pork, seafood, vegetarian, baking, spice blends, extras, but it is alphabetized, so it is easy for me to find things. And she's kind of at the point where she's like, maybe just let me put them back, because I don't always put them back in the right order, even though I try. So obviously we're gonna go to the chicken section, and I'm gonna find the 2 recipes that I have in mind. Now that I have my recipes, I'm gonna scurry around and gather all the ingredients so that we can be more efficient when we're assembling them. And yeah, we'll get to it. We do have to do a little bit more prep because I hadn't gotten my vegetables for this one done. So for one of them, we need a purple onion that is sliced. And I'm just gonna go ahead and put all the like onion bits into that soup broth that's still cooking, because the thing is we're gonna strain that, and so it doesn't matter that it's like got onion peel and things like that. You're not gonna be chowing down on onion peel. It's just like the flavors that are in that skin. Mascara and peeling onions on camera, wouldn't really recommend the combination, but we'll just get through here. And then I will show you how I do my mushrooms. I don't suggest you do them the same way because the method that I use for mushrooms is more time consuming than what I would recommend for most people. But if you've watched the channel for a while, then you may know that I'm squeamish. My husband's family were mushroom farmers. Mushrooms are actually like a very high-tech operation. It's really interesting the way they're grown. But it is true that while they don't exactly grow in manure, like manure is part of the combination of things that is underneath them. And so I know that it's not gross because it's like things are very sanitized, and everything is very safe, and actually more care goes into it than probably what you're aware of even. I was really surprised myself. But just, you know, because when my husband worked there, he had many jobs there when he was younger, and then when we first got married, we moved to Vancouver Island, and then when we moved back, before he started going to school, and we had like 2 small kids and stuff, so he needed a job and ended up working back at the mushroom farm. But at that point, the job he had had before was gone, and so he just kind of had to take what he could get. So he was working with the manure. That was his job. And the smell was like, when he would get home from work, he would change his clothes in the garage and then come in, and we had to do separate loads of laundry for like his work clothes. And when he finished, we joked about like having a burn party and burning his clothes, like his work clothes, because it was just, the smell was like pretty extreme. So for those reasons, I peel my mushrooms. So I just peel the one layer, start from underneath and go all the way around. Now, is that extreme? Yes. Is it necessary? Totally no. Do I suggest you do it? Not at all. But it makes me feel better, and I really like mushrooms. And so in order for me to just wrap my head around the whole thing, I need to peel that layer off. And then look, it's beautiful. There's no blemishes, it's gorgeous. And then I just trim the stem, and then I slice them. So again, you don't need to do that. It's just what I do. You can take a paper towel and wipe them. You can take one of those mushroom brushes and wipe them. You can do whatever you want to do. However you clean mushrooms, I'm sure is totally sufficient. This is how I do mine. Even though these are not the same recipe, I'm actually gonna get them started at the same time. Because that way, if I put my chicken in the bags, like, it saves time. And yes, it might just save, I don't know, 30 seconds or something to do it all right now. But that adds up a lot, especially when you're doing a lot of meals. So whenever you're batch cooking, any little time-saving things that you can do are gonna be something you'll be thankful for later. Now, I do wanna leave myself just a little bit of chicken because this is gonna go into our soup afterwards. So other than that, we're using all of the chicken. Now, the chicken is in both bags. At this point, you wanna only work on one at a time. That's really important, and it's something that I learned the hard way because it's easy to get distracted and accidentally put the wrong ingredient in the wrong bag if you try to do them both at the same time. So I just suggest that you set one aside, and now we're just gonna work on the one. Now the mushrooms are going half in each bag. So at this point, it's safe for me to like do this to each one just so that we can get rid of the mushrooms, as it were. But after this point, I will only be working with one bag at a time. All right, so the first thing we're gonna make is a 1-pot chicken and mushroom pasta. To do that, we're gonna first put Parmesan cheese in a quart-size freezer bag. I think it's about 1 cup, let me check. Yes. All right, now you're gonna get the air out of that bag, and this bag is gonna get stapled onto the large bag so that you have everything you need all at once on the day you go to make this, because you're gonna stir that in towards the end, so you don't want it in the main bag. We've got our mushrooms, got our chicken breasts. We're gonna add in our thinly sliced purple onion, some garlic, again, just from the jar. Now, I have a story for you about the mushrooms. Actually, it's not about the mushrooms, it's about the mushroom farm. So my husband's dad was a mushroom farmer. He came over to Canada from Holland because he wanted to be a farmer, any kind of farmer. His dream was to be a farmer, but in Holland, unless you get family land, you can't really be a farmer. I don't know if that is still true to this day, but at the time, this would have been like, I think, maybe in the 50s. I should do math and figure this out, but around then, yes, that's right. Okay, so in the 50s, that was true. So he came to Canada on his own. I think he was 19. Can you imagine being brave enough to like leave your family? And this is pre, you know, email and FaceTime and all the things that made communication easier. And so he came over to Canada, was sponsored by a family in Port Alberni, BC, which is like on Vancouver Island. And yeah, he had a bunch of jobs before he became a mushroom farmer. And then he became a mushroom farmer, had his own mushroom farm on Lower Mainland in BC, and then eventually came to the area that we live in Alberta to mushroom farm. And then his older sons started to work for him, and they eventually ran the largest mushroom farm in our area until it burnt down. So it burnt to the ground. And like, we'll never forget that day. It was so, like, this is something that had been in the family, and there was a house on the land. Now the house didn't burn. The farm burnt, the mushroom farm operation burnt, but the house didn't burn because it was, you know, over. And the firemen, you know, saved it and all the things. But that night, my husband got a call that the farm was burning, and he had lived in that house, his sister, like with his parents, His sister and her family had lived in that house. His brother and his family had lived in that house. So my husband had so many memories, not just of like working at the mushroom farm and growing up, like going there on weekends and all that kind of stuff, but also like living in this house on there. So it was like the end of an era. Like it was really, really sad. And so my husband drove there and watched it burn. Like it was actually kind of a little traumatic, like just all the memories and stuff. And my brother-in-law's trailer was inside it, so it had propane tank, and so there were like several explosions. That is not what caused the fire. That was just happened to be like, you know, an aside. And so it was actually like a little sad for all of us, even though we weren't, you know, involved in the day-to-day of the mushroom farm at the time. But it was just kind of this like 2 generations, and the 3rd generation was starting to work there when it burnt down. So that is our mushroom farm story. So now no one in the family is in the mushroom farm business. You know, kind of we thought that our kids would work there. This is heavy cream that I'm adding right now. When they were teenagers and kind of first job, it seemed like a rite of passage in the family. Like my nieces and nephews worked at the mushroom farm doing various things. And of course my husband had worked there when he was a teenager, and then when we first got, well, not first got married, but like I was saying earlier, just before, when we moved back to Alberta, before he went to school. So yeah, it's just a really strange little thing in our history there. Okay, some thyme and paprika, and then salt and pepper. And one of our sons at the time was just about old enough to start working there, and he was really looking forward to it, and you know, was going to work there like his cousins. And yeah, just anyway, our salt and pepper. That's it. Okay, that's everything that's going in this bag, and then we're going to staple the bags together. You do want to, again, squish everything together and then get the air out so that you don't get that freezer burn. I like to seal the bag first with air in it, and then squish it around, and then open it again, get the air out. It's just easier to mix things that way. See, this is what I was talking about earlier. I'm mixing things and I'm not messing a bowl up, so I don't have to do dishes with this one. Well, other than the measuring cups and prep bowls and stuff, I guess, but I would have had that regardless. Now, get your air out. You want to staple above the seams so that you don't get holes in the important part of your bag. And when you go to make this, it is a 1-pot pasta. So you're gonna cook your pasta right up in the sauce. So you're gonna bring your sauce to a boil, and then you're gonna add in the pasta right there. Stir it occasionally while the pasta cooks, and then you're gonna add the Parmesan cheese at the end and stir that in to mix, and then serve it. It's a really nice creamy sauce. This has subtle flavors, but it's really become a favorite in our house. It's, even though we like things spicy and this doesn't have spice to it, although we do tend to add red pepper flakes and a bit more Parmesan when we eat ours, but still, like, it's got enough flavor that it holds its own without being overpowering. So maybe give this one a try. The recipe for this will be in the description down below. This next one is, I don't have words. It's got all kinds of things going on in here, but it all works and comes together and tastes really good. You wouldn't think these things go together, but they do. And like I said, this one is worth a try. All right, this is our chicken and sun-dried tomato pasta sauce. I will throw the recipe in the description below for this one as well. I think right now it might only be in the Freezer Meals 101 Club. It will get to the freezermeals101.com site at some point. If it's already there, the link will be below. If it's not, the link to the one in the club will be down there. All right, so we've got our chicken and our mushrooms already in the bag. We're gonna add that white onion that is thinly sliced. Next, we're gonna add some cooked and crumbled bacon. And see how, like, we're making such variety, but we're still using that prepped bacon. It's just such goodness. Okay, so we've got that. And then we have sun-dried tomatoes. Now, if you use them from a jar, you're gonna wanna blot the oil off of them, because this is a recipe that can tend to get too oily. with the sun-dried tomatoes, if you add the oil. I'm just using them from a bag. They're already sliced this way, which saves me a step. Sometimes for certain recipes, we prefer them from a jar, and for certain recipes, we prefer them from a bag. So this one is one that I just prefer the bagged ones. It was 2 tablespoons. I just sort of threw in an amount of sun-dried tomatoes, whatever. And the thing is, these ones, because they're not in the oil, sometimes, I mean, they're dried. Sometimes they can be a bit too dry, but because this is a pasta sauce and it's very saucy, they revitalize. And as it's cooking, they plump right up. So it's not a concern. Whereas some of our other recipes, like we've got chicken that has the sun-dried tomatoes, and for that we prefer the ones in oil because the chicken doesn't have enough sauce to like kind of make them come alive again, right? Speaking of come alive, whoo, where did I put it? I'll be right back. We are gonna add a lemon juice next, which just brightens things up. It's just a splash. Yeah, 1 tablespoon, so just a splash. Generous splash. And then we're gonna add some Madras curry paste. Now, it only calls for 2 teaspoons, but our family really likes Madras curry. So we've had this recipe before, and I always add more, and this time is no exception. So I'm gonna grab that, put that in there. You're starting to see, right, that there's some interesting things going on. We've got bacon, we've got sun-dried tomatoes, we've got Madras curry paste, we've got lemon juice, mushrooms, chicken. Those things do not seem like they should be one family, but they can be. Next, we have an even weirder thing, which is poppy seed dressing. Yes, poppy seed salad dressing. Now, I'm gonna measure this out. Oh, perfect. I thought I might have to open another bottle, but as it turns out, that was just the perfect amount. I'm gonna get that added in there. And then we're gonna add a can of evaporated milk. Now you can add white wine or chicken broth. I have no wine of any kind, and so I think maybe I have this like little mini bottle of champagne that I got at, ironically, at a high tea for Mother's Day about 4 years ago. It's in my little tiny fridge in my room, and that's not gonna, you know, it's probably not gonna cut it. And so we're just gonna go ahead and use chicken broth. It's just a tiny amount anyway. It is, yeah, a 1/4 cup, so you're hardly doing anything there. Now for this one, you do not cook the pasta in it. It doesn't have enough liquid to cook the pasta in there, so you're gonna cook your pasta up separately. But all those flavors, I know, it's very strange. It works. Voila, chicken and sun-dried tomato pasta sauce. That is gonna go in our freezer as well. So we're gonna make our soup now. We've got 2 things going on with the soup. We're gonna just peel and dice some carrots. We're gonna put the peelings into the broth and let it keep doing its thing while I'm, you know, getting the carrots ready. And then we're gonna strain the broth to get all the bones and skin and like anything, all the onion peelings, everything like that out of there. I have a giant bowl. We have in the past used that bowl for our red sauce or our corn chowder when we quadruple it. And we have also used the same stock pot that the chicken broth is in right now for those exact same things before I got the giant bowl. So that's what lets me know that it's gonna fit. Like I know that when we strain it, it's going to fit in this bowl, which makes me happy. Because you never want to find out like halfway through a project like that it's just gonna overflow, right? So we're gonna get that strained, and then we're gonna take some of that delicious homemade chicken broth, and we're gonna make homemade chicken soup. I may or may not throw noodles in it when I cook it up. I'm not gonna freeze it with the noodles in it because I don't want them to overcook. I would put them in towards the end of cooking on the day that I make it. I may or may not add a can of tomatoes, like we're just gonna see. And then the rest of it is gonna get measured out into 2 cups and put in quart-size bags. The reason we measure it, of course, is because if I have a recipe and it calls for 2 cups of chicken broth, then I know to take 1 bag out. If I have a recipe that calls for 4 cups, I take 2 bags out. So that's why we're gonna measure it before we put it in the bags, and we're gonna label the bags. So that's what we're gonna do with that chicken stock. We are not wasting anything today, and I'm so happy with how this all is working out. Does where you live have a really good recycling program? Because we do where we live, so we just have to like separate the paper off of the tin can and, you know, get that sorted away. We recycle a lot of what we use, and then we have a compost bin for any of our like vegetable trimmings or that kind of thing when they're not going into a soup. So if you want to do rotisserie chicken meals, one trick that I have for you when you're looking for recipes is if you're a member of the Freezer Meals 101 Club and you go into the recipes section, you're gonna click the chicken filter, which is just one button. But then here's the trick part. Once you do that, in the keyword search box, you're gonna type in pre-cooked. And then it's gonna filter the recipes that call for cooked chicken. So that's like such an easy fix for you. Pre-cooked recipes are also, because it means that most of it is cooked already. Like if it's a rice bake or something, then the rice is cooked. If it's a pasta, the pasta is cooked plus the protein, right? So it would be safe to eat that way. Now, that's another really good one. If you're cooking for 1 or 2, those are ones that really portion easily out because, you know, everything in it is cooked already. So anyway, I'm just getting these carrots ready for the soup and just kind of thought, oh, I should tell them about that little trick, because in there, I don't know if you knew, but you can filter by more than one thing at one time. So if you wanted to example filter like chicken crock pot or like salmon barbecue or, you know, whatever it is, then you can do that. Or let's say you got like an amazing sale on ground beef, you can click ground beef, but then in the keyword search box, you could type in kid friendly because you want it to be things that your kids are more likely to eat. So yeah, just things like that, right? You can kind of make the filters work magic for you. You know what I just realized? I might as well start doing this in a bag. So I'm gonna grab a bag because I've got my salt and pepper, my bay leaves, my Italian seasoning. I'm also going to add some frozen peas because I have them and why not? When you're assembling something like a soup, the broth is the last thing you want to add because, you know, after that your bag's going to be pretty wobbly. All right, so we're going to add our frozen peas, our bay leaves, Italian seasoning, salt and pepper. And then that's it, because we're going to add that chicken broth, of course, the homemade stock. And like I said, on the day of, I can add some noodles and make it like chicken noodle soup. Remember when I was saying that I knew I had peas? Well, it's a giant bag, so we should have no problem having enough. Okay, we're gonna attempt to do this now. We'll see how this goes. This is my giant bowl with the strainer. My husband's gonna help me because it's heavy. This could go spectacularly wrong.
Ready?
Yeah. Woo!
Whoa! Where are you going?
Oh, sorry. I burnt my hand. Okay, that's
How did that happen?
painful. It splashed a lot, and then I couldn't hold on to the thing
We'll
anymore.
just
Sorry.
restrain it. We have to restrain it. So let's pour it back in here. Try it again. Take 2.
Oops.
Okay, so.
Oh my. Maybe we should have waited till it was cooler.
Oh.
Says the one who didn't get burnt. We are keeping it real here. Here. That didn't go well. We're gonna try again.
Maybe don't touch it. Oh, I see this not very...
It's not well designed. You know what would be smarter? Maybe if we had poured it all into the bowl and then strained it on top of the pot, because this might fit
Oh, it totally
on the
does.
pot.
That's
Okay,
brilliant.
that's a better idea.
Okay,
All
let's
right,
do that.
let's try that. All right,
Okay,
take.
so this was our original idea. We're gonna take the whole pot, put it into the bowl.
All right, this is a better plan.
Careful, it's gonna go blop blop. Wow, that's a lot of chicken guts.
All right, let's scrape out the pot. This is real time, folks. Oh man.
Now,
Better plan.
this here.
The strainer fits on the pot, so it's a better plan to do it this way. Well, that was eventful. Do as I say and not as I do. Make sure your strainer fits on the bowl, and if it doesn't, put it in the bowl first and then back in the pot with the strainer that fits on it. So I'm glad I didn't attempt to do that on my own, because that was my original plan. Thanks to my husband for helping out with that. Anyway, this has been fun and interesting. I am really excited to try some of these meals. I have to say, you probably guessed it already, I'm most excited to try that jalapeno popper pasta bake because it looks amazing and I can't wait. I'm having a hard time waiting. I wish that we could have it tonight, but it has to freeze, it has to do the process so that I can let you know what the results are. Anyway, I really appreciate you being here with me. Just to recap, you can save money with freezer meals. You can make it even easier by using rotisserie chicken. If you use like ingredients, then you can buy things in bulk and save time on prep, and probably lots of other tips that I'm forgetting at the moment. But anyway, it's been fun. Thanks for joining me and happy cooking.